All right, guys, let's welcome Chad Ruhlig to the podcast, to the Talk to Me podcast. Chad, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. I got sent the track "Spite Me," and I immediately wrote back. I was like, "Oh my god, this just destroyed my speakers. I have to talk to Chad, man." So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, right on, brother.
So tell me about this project, the Legend. Is it just Legend? I'm assuming, just with the vowels.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we get so much guff for that all the time. It's like, oh, what a cool band. They've dropped all their vowels. But it's just right. So the band started in 2009, and it was it was starting up. It was a real band, real project, whole shebang and bang, doing the tours and the circuit and all that stuff. And then over the years, it just kind of worked out more to where releasing studio stuff was just kind of the move. I have another band that I tour with pretty actively. So, this was just kind of something that was my own gig from the get-go. So taking it down this road to turn into like a studio thing has been really, really cool, man.
With the obviously with the last year that we've had, I don't like to say the dreaded C word, but over the last year, I mean, a lot of bands have kind of turned into this studio project. A lot of people sending files and things like that. So, I mean, were you ahead of the game before all this started doing a project like this?
Originally, like the self-titled Legend release, which was the first release with no vowels, that came out in 2015, and that was with a good friend of mine, D.L. Laskowitz. He's just a phenomenal songwriter and singer. He did a lot of writing and production and tracking for the last All That Remains record, the Unearthed record, of just a bunch of really cool stuff. And him and I just kind of were like, hey, you're sitting in the studio, I'm sitting in the studio. Let's just put some stuff together. We never toured on that release, so it kind of started about 2015 of just making it a studio thing. But pandemic era, we started putting some pieces together. We were like, it's just sitting here. We haven't released a record in 4 years. And that was, I had so much time to kind of just sit back and reflect on everything. And I was like, well, might as well make use of my time. And it was a long time coming anyway to get some more music out. So, man, it worked out really cool. And involving everyone that I did, that was a really cool premise too, to kind of work with 6 different guys and writers, producers. So it kind of had a cool little twist on it. I knew if I just released it as like another record, and the full band or whatever, it was probably going to get lost in the mix. Just with the amount of content that's constantly being put out from everyone. Right. So
as soon as the all these quarantine lifts and everything else, once touring starts back up, I'm sure my job and your job will become much more hectic once everybody's able to start touring and releasing records, and everybody's probably been recording this whole time, and we're just going to get bombarded. So the one thing with this though, you released Spite Me, you also released Psychedelic Nightmare. Will this be kind of a singles release, release a song every few months type deal?
Yeah, that's kind of the game plan moving forward. It's all getting released through Rise Records. I've been with those guys well over a decade, and they were still excited about the project. So it's there's no really even time frame on it. We're kind of like, okay, you ready to put out another single kind of thing. So I got 4 more on deck that will be released in the upcoming months. And when that's all said and done, we'll probably do like a limited press of some vinyl, something cool, just to give somebody the physical hands in if they want it. But as of right now, it's just all standalone singles.
So if I'm reading correctly, For the Fallen Dreams was one of the original Rise bands, or you were at least associated with Rise back in the early 2000s, and then now to see what that label itself has become has got to be pretty nuts for you.
Oh, it's crazy. I talk about this all the time because originally For the Fallen Dreams signed with Rise in 2008, and we were in talks with them in 2007 and all that fun stuff. So to be like one of like the early metalcore bands and all these like pseudo screamo bands, and now you have like Flogging Molly and AFI, and it's like, weird. It's cool though. It's humbling, man. It's
pretty nuts. You got your label mates with like Five Finger Death Punch now.
Yeah, it's insane, man. Like just going into it, it was weird. Like looking back on, I remember, and that's all you wanted to do. I remember back in like the early mid 2000s, like I just wanted to be on Trustkill Records so bad because like some of my favorite bands were on there, and here we are, 34 and on the same label as Flogging Molly. So I'll take it.
Nice.
I'll take it.
It's like when I was growing up in the late 90s, like Roadrunner could have given me any contract and I would have signed it. They could have been like, we want 100% publishing and 100% this, and I'd be like, fine, as long as it says Roadrunner Records on my CD, I'm good.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I agree.
That's great. So Spite Me, you've also got Andrew of the Ghost Inside, obviously formerly of For the Fallen Dreams. Everything that he has gone through over the last few years, to get to work with him again, see him behind the kit again. I was just watching videos of him playing drums, and it's just amazing to see him, get through all of this.
Yeah, it's he's always been, we've been friends for almost 2 decades. He's always been that guy, though. He's always been very optimistic about any situation. Very just, nose to the grindstone. Let's get it done. Nothing's going to hold me back. And in that aspect of being the most extreme case of what they went through. I mean, most people just mentally, to be able to wrap your brain around that and come to terms with what happened and where you're at is a fucking, a crazy feat in itself, let alone to, make a custom leg to do double kick on. And he's got, I know he has some nerve damage in his shoulder, but you would never know. Right. He's a machine, man. And it was really cool, just again, because we've been friends for so long, to kind of just connect and be like, hey, let's do some shit together. It goes back to the same thing with the pandemic. We were just working on stuff in the studio, and he happened to have a track on deck that he was working on, and I was like, well, here we are, might as well, right? So it worked out.
Yeah, it came out amazing, man. I was just like I said earlier, like when I got sent the track, I was just like, this is what I'm talking about. Another track that I came across was, and I know this is a little bit older and we're gonna jump around a little bit, but the Kill Switch Engage cover, I had to look at my phone a few times to even see if it was like, are you sure this is a cover? Like, this sounds almost too identical to the original, man. It sounded amazing. You did an amazing job.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was, I think a lot of people thought that, usually when people do the covers, they're like, well, let's change it up a bit. And I think we added a little bit of different flavor to it, but we're just fans of the band, and we're like, the song rips. Let's just do it. And it's, I think it's like the most played song, for good reason, on like our Spotify and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a cool one for sure.
I think going back to For the Fallen Dreams, the last album 6 came out about 3 years ago. How are you feeling about that album now? Through the last few years, has it aged well with you? Things like that.
I'm a maniac, man. I literally anything I put out, it could be 6 months later, and I just hate it. So,
I understand that 100%.
I do think there's some very solid tracks on it. Some of them have done really well. I want to say like Unstoppable Now, which is like the main single off the record. It's at like 17 million views on YouTube, and it's and that was completely organic too. Like there was no touring. We never toured on, like we didn't tour off 6. I want to say it's almost a year and a half later.
Oh wow.
So yeah, madness. But it's done really well. There's some songs I really like, but it just kind of comes with the territory. As an artist, you're going to pick apart literally everything you do. So as you grow as just as a human being, as a man, as an artist, you look back on stuff you did and you're like, that don't work. But there's still some stuff I'm proud of and that I like on it, but there's always room for improvement in every release. So that helps with the process of anything moving forward, is to put out shit that's going to beat the last release that you did. So
yeah, it's the other thing. Obviously, looking at the Wikipedia, you see the laundry list of past members of For the Fallen Dreams. So what happens behind the scenes there? Is there just a core group of For the Fallen Dreams, and then we say, hey, we've got a tour coming up, we need a this, we need a that, and
that's really what a lot of it is. I mean, the band has been in. We've been going since 2000. The band started in 2003. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, naturally, you're going to go through a lot of guys being, 17, 18 years old. you know, guys who just realize that touring or being in a band isn't what they want fresh out of high school. You know, it sounds cool when you present it at first, but as you get older and you move on, or it's just, you know, people realize this isn't what I want to do. Or some of the guys on there were just fill-ins for a few tours, but Wikipedia likes to run with those. So we've kind of became, it's just like a thing now. So hopefully we can add like 5 more to the list for the year. Just might as well, right?
Are there guys that could come up to you and be like, "Hey, I was also in For the Fallen Dreams"? You'd be like, "No shit!" Like, wow, yeah. Okay.
That would not surprise me. There was a, you know, I was out of the band and started Legend in that 5-year absence. So there's probably a solid 10 different guys. I guess so. So it's just me and Jim, the guitar player. They're kind of like the core guys, and then Mark Esses, our drummer. He's been with us for almost 3 years now. And he's here to stay. He's rad. So 3 guys, we'll say.
It kind of looked like in the, you know, when you rejoined For the Fallen Dreams was the time when he also started doing the clean vocals a little bit more. Was that a conscious thing where you guys talked about it and said, hey, you know, I think we're going to add this dimension to the band, or what?
Yeah, again, I think it just comes back into that growing thing, you know, like, you know, and it's fun to obviously stick to your roots and keep that whole dynamic, but at the same time, you know, just you want to push yourself. If you're not pushing yourself to be better than the record before, or anything you've done, man, it's I don't know, I'm not a fan of it. I feel like you should always try and up the ante every time and feel that growth. So it was something we were like, yeah, I mean, it's there, the tools are there. Let's give it a go and see how it goes. And I think it went all right.
And For the Fallen Dreams, you started out as the bass player, and being a bass player myself, obviously always probably wanting the starlight of the front man. You know, how did that transition happen for you?
I never really planned on it. I've talked recently a lot with people because they've asked me about bass player stuff, and I had posted like a few pictures of like my original bass, like my Warwick.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, you can't beat the Warwick. So that was always my intent, was just to play bass. I was like a huge fan of like Mudvayne and Limp Bizkit, and so I was like, they always ripped Warwicks, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is the end all be all. And we had a singer at the time, and it just didn't work out. We were just moving in a different direction, and they were kind of like, hey, you want to sing? And I was like, oh, sure, why not? I guess I can give it a go, because I mean, I did vocals in other local bands before that, so they knew I was able to do it. But yeah, it was cool, man. I mean, obviously, I'm very tuned into who I am as a vocalist and a lyricist now over the years. So, but originally, it was definitely it wasn't really something I was interested in. So,
I always associate the old Warwicks with Peanut from 311.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
You know, growing up in the Michigan area, how often did you make it to Detroit to like maybe like a Harpo's or whatnot?
Oh, all the time, man. All the time. It was Harpo's, the Shelter, Clutch Cargo's was rolling back then. St. Andrews Hall.
Nice.
So I remember it was probably 2001, 2002. It was a crazy story. It was Papa Roach had just released Infest, and I want to say they were on the Love Hate Tragedy cycle, and I went to the shows in Detroit, which is about an hour and some change for me, and I saw Jacoby like walking out of the bus, and I was like, just, you know, being 14, I was just like bombarded him right away, and we just started talking, and he was like, hey, you want to come up to the green room? So at 14 years old, I was up in the green room hanging out with Dead Sea and Papa Roach and St. Andrews Hall. That was like the mecca too. Like if you were from Michigan, like Harpo's and St. Andrews Hall, like that was the goal, was to play one of those venues. So hanging out with him at that time at 14 was a crazy experience. It like kind of set me up to be like, okay, hold on, I can do this. Like this is a real thing. And yeah, it was wild, man. Harpo's, I didn't go there as much because it was in like the crazy part of town. If you've been there, you know.
Yeah. I've told the story a few times on the show, but the first big tour I ever did, you know, one of our last shows was at Harpo's in like 2002, and our tour manager comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I know you've never been here before. Don't go anywhere," because he knew I like, normally when you're on tour, you wander off and you go find a record store or a sandwich shop or something. But he goes, don't. He's like, do not leave the venue. So me being me, I leave the venue. I take like one lap and I immediately went back inside the venue. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Get up on that 14-foot stage.
Oh yeah, that stage that was another thing. They were like, hey, if you walk to the front of the stage, kids will jump up and punch your feet. And I was like, all right. So I was like, okay. So I walked to the front of the stage and there it is. Kids jumping up, punching my feet,
It's wild, man. Yeah. So if I saw right, you were in Primer 55 then, yeah?
Yeah, that was the Primer 55 tour, yeah.
So sick, man. I used to jam Primer 55 all the time. That was like one of my high school anthems, like jamming loose on the way to high school, on the way to English class.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure that got you nowhere in school.
No, I mean, hey, that's what set it up. I was like, all right, time to leave school and do music. So
yeah, that Primer 55 show at Arpo's, it actually is funnier now, but at the time we were on tour with Dope, and we get to the one show, and they go, hey, this band who has a single out wants to jump on the show. Can they play the show? And we're like, sure. And it ended up being Trapt. So
no shit.
And it was funny because like we were about 2 months into the tour, and this band Trapt comes in, and they that Headstrong song was out and doing somewhat well at the time. Sure, It was still like, oh yeah, we've kind of heard that song. But they started eating our catering, and like everybody was just like, get off our catering.
fucking Trapt.
Fucking Trapt. So the more and more that shit happens with that guy, I always think back to like, get off our chips, man.
Put the vegetable tray down, bro.
Right. Walk away from the little deli meats or whatever. But
that's fine.
Good times, man. But so it's just crazy looking back at all those times. And I always like to bring up the Harpo's experience with anyone from that area.
Yeah, there was, I want to say the first time I played there, same thing. I was walking down the street, should not have been. And this guy came up to me and he's like, hey man, you got a light? I was like, I don't. He's like, you got a wallet? I was like, and I was like, listen, man, I'm not doing I was like maybe 21, 22, just too full of my own shit that I was like, I flat out told him, you're not going to rob me. Like, he was like, all right, respect. And that was it. I was like, okay, I could have went a number of ways, but we got time to go back to the venue.
Too good. So are you continuing on with For the Fallen Dreams? Will there be new stuff with them? What's going on with that?
Yeah, we're working on some new stuff right now. We just signed with a European label, so we're doing some quick releases. Working on some pre-pro right now and putting the pieces together. So yeah, it's still moving forward with a band that's been around that long. We've been able to solidify that spot where we can still do it. Like it's panned out. We can still tour on it. We can still make it profitable. So to kick it to the curb and say we're not going to do it anymore doesn't make sense. So even if it's 3-4 years in between each release, it works still. So we're just rolling with it and putting out music when we're able. So.
Going back to that, that Papa Roach thing, I just had Aaron Polly on of Vice and Men, and he illuminated when he started talking about Papa Roach too. It's crazy how that era of music, for as much as it got shit on, like the bands that are coming up and have been up now, all wax ecstatic about all those old days.
Oh, for sure, man. Like that's most. I mean, obviously, I do the real heavy stuff and the metalcore, deathcore, whatever you want to call it. But like my roots are deep into like late mid-90s new metal and early 2000. Like that's my heyday, man. I'm 34, so I remember being like, man, 12 years old, and the drummer of my local band that was in then, his older brother was like 16 or 17. He was 3-4 years older than us, so he was going to all the Ozfests. Like he was going to like 96, 97, like the first ones. Mm-hmm. And I remember just thinking like, this is sick. Like the stuff he was playing in his black light room with all his crazy posters. I'm just like, nice. This is so fucking cool. And that's what kind of got me into it. And so it's cool to see bands like Papa Roach that are still like killing it, like literally just still doing really, really well. And a lot of those bands, man, like I don't think I've like listened to I've obviously listened to new bands, but stuff that's really resonated with me, I still listen to the same like 5 records. Like I just can't let them go. So
what are your 5 go-to new metal records?
Oh man, Adrenaline, Deftones.
Can't go
No. Significant Other, Limp Bizkit. LD50. What else we got here? Iowa Slipknot, or self-titled Slipknot for sure.
Oh yeah.
And fuck, there's so many, bro. What's one more I got? Is
there a Korn one you go to?
I wasn't the big. I love Korn, but I wasn't in that. Like I obviously listened to like Issues and Follow the Leader and all that, but they weren't like the heavy rotation ones. So probably one of the early Soulfly records.
Oh yeah,
I was big into Soulfly too. I didn't even know who they were, and I remember my buddy's older brother was like, "Here's a shirt, it doesn't fit me," and it was Soulfly, and I wore it for like years without ever listening to the band. And then I heard like I heard Back to the Primitive. Yeah, I know. I heard Back to the Primitive. I was like, okay, this makes sense. I can wear the shirt with pride now. So.
My daughter got a bunch of my old shirts. She just now went off to college, but she's like, she was wearing like an old Kiss shirt the other day. I'm like, where the hell did you get a Kiss shirt? She's like, oh, I got it at the Goodwill or something. And I'm like, I got a whole closet full of shirts I don't wear. Do you want them? And so now she has, Deftones and whatever, not shirts, she's going to be walking around and some, metalhead's going to be like, name 3 songs by that band. And she'd be like, I don't even know who this is.
It's coming back, man. Like I see it like, my fiance, she'll get on like Urban Outfitters and there'll be like a fucking Lamb of God shirt on there for like $85. People just snagging them up. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's nuts.
It's like the cool thing.
The first time I ever saw that, I was in New York City, like downtown, wherever, and I went into a shop and they had like early and this is 98-ish, somewhere in there, and they had a whole shop and they were selling, old 80s concert tees for like $250. I was like, why would anyone ever pay, $250 for the shirt, and they're still doing it? But then again, I see shirts that I had as a kid. I'm like, man, I'd love to have that again. And then you click on the price and you're like, not for that much. I don't care how much that stimulus check was. I'm not getting it.
Exactly. I had the LD50 Mudvayne shirt, and I lost it. I don't know what happened to it. Got lost in the mix somewhere along the line. And I went into a thrift store in my hometown maybe like 3 years ago, and they had one in there. It was brand fucking new. Like, and it wasn't a remake either. It was like because I remember the same brand mine was pressed on, and I remember just being like, okay, this is a good day, man. Just like sat home and stared at it for an hour.
Was it the right size too? It wasn't like a small or medium.
It was a 2X, so I can get away with it. Yeah.
That's a little blousy, but you'll be all right.
Yeah, a little blousy, but I can grow into it if I have to.
Nice. What is the next? I know you said earlier about releasing singles here and there with Legend, but I mean just how many more tracks do we have coming? When do I need to send you the bill for the speakers that I blew from Spite Me?
Yeah, right. We got them. So I got 4 tracks that are left for all 6 that we did. It's crazy that we've only released 2 so far, but we should have another one coming up here soon with my buddy Cody Stewart. He was in that band, The Browning. So that's coming out. It's I would imagine within the next 5 weeks or so. So there's there's no real timeline. We're kind of just putting them out when it makes sense. But I did one too with I don't know if you're familiar with producer Josh Schroeder. He's done like all the King 810 stuff.
Okay.
He's done a bunch of crazy shit, man. He's a genius, and him and I worked on a track that's really killer. So that one I'm really stoked for. That'll probably be one of the last ones. But they'll be coming out here within the next month or so, and then every 6 weeks. So just whenever it makes sense to drop them. But they're all there. So
Nice. Yeah, we're talking about, the new metal guys kind of having legacy now, but I mean, even the metalcore, deathcore guys, we're into that cycle now to where a lot of the early bands like a Killswitch Engage, things like that are almost into that nostalgia period too. And, and even For the Fallen Dreams, that's a name, that's a band that's been around forever. That's, got a legacy that it can build on too, man. It's pretty crazy to see all you guys being able to kind of continue on and not have to, continue to build because you've already built something.
Right. Yeah. That's Killswitch is a perfect example of that, man. Like just one of those bands that kind of set the standard and we're doing things that not a lot of bands. I remember watching and seeing like Hellfest DVDs from the early 90s and 2000s of Killswitch then, when I think Jesse was the original singer back then too. Yeah. Wasn't he? And then when Howard came in, added a whole new dynamic. So like, good. What a guy, man! He's in like 5 bands now, but they're all just so good.
Yeah, that Scion thing he's doing with Jared Dines, I was just like, Jesus Christ, sounds so good.
Right? Yeah, I just heard it maybe a couple days ago.
Yeah,
I had a buddy send it to me, and he still got it, man. He's still got the pipes. He's just one of those dudes. It's just so much soul to him. He's not one of those guys you can duplicate. But yeah, that's a rap project, and then Killswitch, same thing, man. Jesse coming back and their new stuff, it's killer. So, metalcore, who'd have thought? Here it goes.
Right.
It's getting radio play now and the whole thing.
It's funny, around the time of Primer, me joining Primer 55, that's when, like right after that's like, or roughly at the same time, sorry, the Killswitches and Unearths and everything were starting to kind of come out, and. Yep. I grew up on Megadeth, Metallica, Pantera, guitar solos and things like that. So, my buddies are showing me this, and I told, Mike D the last time he was on, I was like, you guys allowed us to play solos again. We were like, oh, we can play guitar solos again. This is awesome.
For sure. Yeah, there was that weird divide. I remember being in high school, and which is fucking crazy to me when I think about it, because my school was so small. Like my graduating class was like 68 people.
Oh wow!
But it was mad small. But there was the late 90s and mid 90s. It was such a special time for heavy music. It was great with Pantera like releasing the records they did, where people were just like, what in the fuck did I just hear?
Yeah.
And like just all those bands coming up, man, it was wild. And my small, tiny ass school, there was like the die-hard Pantera and 9 Inch Nail fans. And then there was like the metalcore kids still. And I think about that. I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, how are these kids in this podunk town able to like latch onto this stuff and make it like a big thing even back then? That shaped me into, what I'm doing, 15 plus years later. But it's wild, man.
Yeah, we were, at the same time we were going to see Limp Bizkit live, we were going to see Snapcase, it was like, and that whole thing, it was, we were going to see, Deftones were taking Snapcase out on tour. That was an amazing tour. And the, going to see Pantera and going to see, Hatebreed or whatever. But it definitely wasn't as maybe, cut down the throat as like thrash and glam, it's like Kill Posers and all that stuff, thankfully, you wear the wrong shirt to a show, you get beat up or something, it wasn't that bad.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that crazy though? I mean, just, the fact that you were in Primer 55 is rad. I used to jam the first record all the time, man. That was my jam.
I've said it a million times, man. It's cooler today than it was back then. people remember it a little bit differently than those 10 people that were at some of those shows that we did in 2007.
I hear you. Yeah, it was weird because like I remember my buddy saying like, "Oh, it's rap metal." I was like, "What the fuck is rap metal?" I was like 13. And now that if Primer 55 were released that, some of those records now, it'd be a game changer. People be blowing it up, man. It'd be sold out shows. But yeah, it's crazy how stuff like that goes around.
Yeah, how many times in my inbox from a publicist is a CD or a a stream of something, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is just brand new Linkin Park,
Yeah, right.
It's pretty crazy how it's all going, man. But yeah, what you're doing out there, you're killing it. The Legend stuff's great. Can't wait for the next few songs to come out. You know, Chad, man, appreciate you taking some time with me today.
Yeah, man, it was a blast. Thanks for having me.